creative talent. I'm not a creative, not like the Winan and Kennedy guys. And what I want to share with you today is to make sure that you do not have to be afraid of standardizing, and you do not have to be afraid of technology, because it will actually give you more time and more abilities to become creative, hopefully. So Pandora, I don't know if you know the brand, it's a jewelry brand. It's not the radio channel that some may think. It's a jewelry brand which allows for charms to be combined onto a bracelet. I'm wearing one here. So every woman can create their own unique piece of jewelry, combining and be creative in what they wear. It's really about inspiring all women, and it's really important that the luxury goods are at an affordable price. So every woman should be able to purchase it. Big slide. Don't need to read everything, but what I want to illustrate here is that Pandora has come a long way. Started out in a small jewelry shop in Copenhagen and then grew on international expansion and then overall like a global leader on jewelry brands. Over 26,000 people in the own factory as well in Thailand. Second one has opened last year, what they actually call Gemopolis, and now they have a second location. So it's a very large contributor into the jewelry market. The reason why I put up this slide is to show the growth of the organization. You start small. It's a nice small company, everybody knows each other very well, we all like each other, we all love each other, and then it starts growing. It becomes mandatory to start standardizing, to start technology. You get this death by email things going on, and somehow you need to maintain that. And I think creative operations, marketing operations is the way forward to doing that, because it's really hard to keep that warm, fuzzy feeling that you had in the early days while you're a global company. So when I started out as a consultant many years ago at Pandora, we had a massive challenge. They asked me, oh, can you help us out? Because product data was living everywhere in the organization. Content was living everywhere. Everybody had their own little folder, and there was another server, another application. The quality was poor, and we all have these lovely examples that you see on the website where the text is completely wrong, or you can buy a Samsung TV for €1. So in order to prevent that, we started a project to make sure that the operations would improve, the quality would improve, but also make sure that we have more time on our hands to work on the content. This one. So, facilitate the central and local needs. At the time when we started, it was only in Europe. So within a couple of years, actually, it grew tremendously. We had to do Asia, we had to do United States as well, and make sure that all the product information was consistent, that we had the right translations, the right prices, the right availability, and later on we even got e-commerce included into the equation. So when we started out, it was just the stores, and later on e-commerce growing on. Goals: efficiency, scalability, flexibility, accountability, and transparency. Now, I know this is for creatives, this is an absolute nightmare to use these words, but this is typically something that a marketer is being asked for. So we have to make sure that the operation, the thing that I was watching the Winan and Kennedy presentation, and I was thinking like, yeah, but ultimately we have to make money, guys. So great stuff, but ultimately we have to make money. And that's the constant balance between creativity and the operations, is that we have to produce these creative things and it needs to become tangible. So, but never stop being creative, of course. So we came up with Pandora Library. Now, currently it's under debate whether we should call it library, because people think it's boring and it doesn't sound like the cool tool that it is. I keep telling them it's a cool word because I came up with it. So, but we are thinking about going towards a content hub or something generic. Maybe someone has a great idea how we can call this application. But it has a PIM, which is Product Information Management, and it has a DAM, Digital Asset Management, so all product information in all languages, with all their assets being images, marketing files, videos, are stored in this central application. We're very proud of it because it has a 24/7 access throughout the world, also using some funky technology to make sure that you have fast download times and upload times. So this really helped in being consistent on the brand communication, helping out all the creatives in the market, all the marketeers within the market, to make sure they have the right content. Job done? No. This was phase one. We had the tool in place, we could make people work with the application, but now we had to go for more optimized marketing operations. People were still using the old ways, still things were going wrong, not everybody was connected, so we got the request, okay, let's improve marketing operations. Now, when I do marketing operations projects, I use this equation. It's wrong. So if there's any mathematicians in the room, I know it's wrong. But marketing complexity is the amount of products, services, and brands that you have, times the amount of communication that you have to do, times the amount of channels that you have to produce for, times the target audience. Because target audiences change, evolve, they fragment even more. So that gives you the marketing complexity. Channels have been growing tremendously over the last year. You have all these social media channels that you can do stuff with, but then you need to produce content for that as well and make sure that it resonates with the specific audience. I don't use Snapchat, I don't understand how it works. So, but if you are a brand, you need to know how it works and provide content for it. So that is the increasing complexity, and I predict this will get worse over the years. And the only way to control this is to have optimized marketing operations. So there are a lot of symptoms that you can see within an organization when it comes to inefficiency. The overload of emails is one. That just indicates that something's broken in the infrastructure. But it's also that you see, oh yeah, I'm in the sales department, I'm going to do some marketing as well because it can't be that hard. It frustrates me tremendously because it is actually a specialty to do marketing as being creative. Lawsuits, also the question just with the user-generated content from Made. Lawsuits because you're using content that isn't yours or you're using models beyond the extended period of time. When there's a cost-cutting going on in an organization because the results are bad, marketing gets the biggest blows. Why? Because nobody sees the added value of marketing. You don't generate any revenue, so you're just an expenditure. That's not true. What I find disturbing is that within marketing, there's a higher sick leave compared to other departments. And this is global, and this is for all organizations. They're burnout factories. People just have to compensate because the processes are broken or the way of working is broken. And then people tend to either leave or sit home sick and wait for some miracle to resolve their issue. And of course, silo teams, so we do it our way, and then PR does it their way, and corporate does it their way. So all symptoms of inefficiency, but it's not the cause. How do you then do a marketing operations optimization? I have 4. There used to be 3. So people recognize the talents. I work for another organization where there is an art director who has been there for 30 years. Now, how do you make sure that a person who's worked with an organization very loyal person remains creative. And that means training, recognizing their capabilities, motivating, have a fun team together and do things well. There was this quote like, if you love your people, you need to invest in people and they may leave and those kind of things. Yes, you have to invest in people. And also, it will attract quality people if you are working in a proper way, because word gets out. Process alignment, of course. This really has to do with not just standardizing your content that you produce in a specific way, but it also has to do with standardizing your processes. ICP recently gave out a white paper on the briefing, and they also have a workshop later today. Really good stuff, because a briefing form needs to be standardized and needs to contain everything you need to know in order to create the marketing material. Workflows. Workflow is the same in all organizations. So don't think you're special. It's create, produce, distribute, done. And you can have like alternative flows to it, but the core is there. It's the same everywhere. Stick to it. Technology. Questions about AI. Yes, of course, but there are a lot of tools out there in the market that can help you. InDesign, Photoshop, all of these programs, we're very accustomed to it, but it's also technology. So the days that we were drawing up and scanning and doing analog photography, it's long gone. I was there, I'm that old. But technology is there to help you, and there are a lot of tools that can help you out. And the last one is data. And I think with data, a lot of people think about BI and doing all of these fancy portfolios of the type of customers we're addressing. But it's not just that. GDPR. Oh, everybody was shocked. Now we have to adhere to GDPR. It is super important. And I went to a conference a couple of weeks ago from the European Union. I know Brexit, you're not part of it anymore. But GDPR was step one. There is a lot more coming. Customers are going to be in control of their own data. And you, as a marketing department, need to make sure that you take care of that data in a consistent, good way in order to avoid lawsuits, but also to interact. So before we started out with, okay, what can we do here? Let's not do the things that we like, but let's start working on the things that are broken and the things that are truly broken. There's a lot of low-hanging fruit in every organization. So I call this the marketing operations audit. We do interviews, we do workshops, questionnaires, document analysis, IT landscape analysis. So what do we have today? How's it going? Where's the pain within the organization, and how can we resolve that? That then determines a current situation with a conclusion and a recommendation. And the way forward from that is doing a business case. Do a business case, because that gives you a guideline of what you want to achieve. Why are we taking the steps that we are taking? Because if your program takes longer than a couple of months, the people that you started out with have gone, so you need to make sure this is why we're doing what we're doing. New manager comes in and you can say, this is what we're trying to achieve here. So our program within Pandora resulted in 3 areas: UI and user functionality. How can we make Pandora Library more attractive? We're working for marketeers. So when it's ugly, they're not going to use it. You remember those DOS screens way back when? Everybody hates them. So if it looks like that, nobody wants it. So also incorporate new available functionality, which was available in the market. Start using them, incorporate them into the existing solution. Another thing is dynamic publishing. Web to publish, web to print. So creation of templates based on the creative concept. We create templates, and then marketers from the local market, but even retailers, can create their own content. And the final bit was product information optimization, introducing a workflow, approval flows, a dashboard, just to make sure that people had their product information ready on time. So, how did we do? You don't need to read everything. So on the UI functionality, we did a complete redesign, including a landing page, some improved lightbox functionality to customize your downloads and make sure you have the right renditions ready. Also important part was reporting, and this is operational reporting. So this means how many users do we have, how does it work, what assets are being used moreover than other assets, and things like that. Dynamic publishing, we did an inventory of all the marketing materials, and that was kind of shocking. So per campaign, there is a standard set of marketing material which is being created. And of that set, only 60% was actually being used by the market. So that is a waste of 40%. And then in addition, when we spoke to the graphic designers in the various markets, they were sick and tired of doing all these renditions of an ad. So they come in to work in the morning, and instead of doing fun, creative work, they have to adjust sizes of advertising material. Nobody wants to do that. That's not why you went to school. So we were able to standardize 70% of the marketing material. Just make sure that you have the right placeholders on an advertisement or a banner or things like that. And then marketeers, without creative skills, without an agency, can create their own materials. Retailers create their own materials. So they no need to go back to the graphic design studio because they don't want to do that. And the final bit on the product information, just governance. Who's doing what? Who can do what? Who can change this information? We had this one incident where a person in Spain by accident changed the English description into Spanish and rolled that out globally. You know, it wasn't by intention, but just because we allowed that person to have that access. So we kind of had to change that back. And, you know, some people cried, some people got hurt, but ultimately it went fine again. So we're reducing the amount of errors there. Validations and approvals. So also, are you sure? Are you really, really, really sure? Are you really, really sure? Press OK. And then a bulk update of scheduled changes. So when you have a product launch, you have like 60, 70 products with all these various descriptions, and they all need to launch at a specific date. Now we can bulk update and say, all of these go on the same date. Effect and success. We had an increase of the user community. Is that important? Yes, because that means that more people have access to the same consistent content and that they're using the application. We have situations where people ask, I cannot download all the single pack shots, all 70,000 single pack shots, I cannot download them at one go. The techies then start running. Ooh, why not? What's wrong? Well, what's wrong is that someone is trying to download all 70,000 single pack shots. You don't need them because they're in the system. So use the system instead of downloading them to your local folder. So all countries are now linked to the application, which is also important. There are a lot of markets out there which have limited access to the various platforms. So we're happy to say that it goes from the smaller countries to the larger countries. Reduced time in the operational processes. I spoke to some people prior to the event, and if I say that on certain things we saved 65% of the duration of the creation, it sounds almost unbelievable. So I left it out, but we did. Brand consistency and brand compliancy. It's really bizarre how many people still think that they are creative and do their own thing. So at least we make sure that people stay on the brand because that is important. It creates recognition. Locally produced marketing material is now also available globally. Yes, Big Brother is watching, because now people start loading up their locally produced materials, and we can check what they're doing. Prior to that, we could not do that. Consolidation, so only create the materials that we actually need instead of all these different versions and varieties. A reallocation on media spend. So I don't want to say cost saving, because yes, we also did a cost saving, but also a reallocation of spending. Instead of hiring an agency, which is not wrong, but what I usually see agencies are being the inefficiency buffer. We can't get it done. Oh, it needs to get out now. Call the agency. They work until the middle of the night to get things done. So instead of spending money that way, we can actually spend it using the marketing material, using it throughout various channels. Improve the quality and also the performance of people. Less sick leave, happy people, happy creative people, and people doing fun stuff, doing billboards instead of resizing advertising material. This is what I call side effects. Things we didn't anticipate that would happen, but they did, in a good way. When we started out the dynamic publishing program, our main focus was print, because at the time, the majority of the materials were for print only. Then we discovered that we could also do online material and video in the tool, and we said, well, let's just at least make it available and see where it goes. Video has exploded, and the online material has exploded. So all of that material is now being created within the application. So instead of hiring an agency that understands HTML, they can use a banner, resize, put in another picture, and they have a banner. What we also saw is that local markets create less of their own material. So they reuse more of the materials which are created globally, because it's free, it's available, so they don't have to hire an agency to create their own materials. Good stuff. The in-house resources are available to do the cool stuff. So doing an ABRI poster, doing a specific type of video. So really increase their creativity and give them the opportunity to grow in their trade. A lot more focus on brand development. So because the creatives are available, they have time to really think about the positioning of the brand. How do we want to use this? How do we want to do this? What do we want to portray? And I hear things like trust and loyalty and luxury, and those are the things that the creatives now can really focus on. Budget available for more marketing, also hiring resources when we run out of time, but also just to do more cool things. Hire more expensive models, for example. There's a collaboration going on with a lot of famous people right now, simply because there's a budget available for it. There's a less dependency on external agencies. Nothing wrong with an external agency, but they're expensive, especially if you use them as your inefficiency buffer. I don't have time to do this, so let's send it to them, get 4 or 5 different proofings back. Someone else comes in, oh, I don't like it, no more. If you hire an agency, it's for a dedicated purpose. And the video marketing support. As I indicated, video has exploded throughout the various channels, and now we are able to do that. I wanted to share some of the myths surrounding standardization and technology used in marketing, because when you do this kind of project, you have to work with change management, and people then just say, it's never going to work, it's not for us, can't do that. So here are a few myths. Transformation is for digital marketing. That is not true. It can also apply for offline materials. Really, you do not have to focus solely on the online channels or digital marketing. And it just gives you the opportunity to do more for all channels. One tool to rule them all. That's also not true. Once you've purchased an application, it doesn't mean that everything needs to go through that application. There are certain things that an application simply cannot do because it's not designed to do it. So don't use InDesign for a letter. Use Word, it's that simple. Use the tools which are at hand. Nowadays, all vendors will tell you we have an API so we can connect and blah. So that's great. So pick the one for the purpose that you need it for. IT will solve all your problems. Now, IT will make it worse if you don't organize your processes first, if you don't organize your resources, if you don't spill out how you're going to do this. It will not solve your problems. If you found the solution, if you have a good way of working, then it can help you, and then you can actually make sure that you work even better. But don't look at it as the miracle. And creativity is killed. I know when I start talking about templates and when I start talking about placeholders, that the majority of people go like, oh. But this is after the creative phase. You've done your creative bit, now we're going to take it into practice. And that means this is the guideline, this is the way of working that we're going to do, and then we roll it out. But the creativity still lies in front of the process, where you create your creative designs, your concept, your brand position, and then we roll it out. Thank you.